The next station is London Waterloo. Change here for London Underground service.
We have arrived in London Waterloo Station. It's a bit less busy than you think it would normally be. I think, basically a bit of context, we've been having a serious heat wave in the UK over the last 3-4 days, like 30 degrees. Not sure how to convert that into the American way of doing it, but you get my gist. Anyway, it's been really hot. So I think, well, it'll be interesting to see how busy London is. Normally a sunny Sunday in London, it would be heaving, but I don't think it will be. Context about where we're going. So Waterloo takes you into South Bank, which is like the south bank of the River Thames, essentially. The clue's in the name. It's kind of like a great place to see all the main sites in like kind of half an hour or so of walking. So yeah, classic sort of London scenes. Bit scruffy, railway arches, chicken shops, etc., pubs. But on the whole, it's all right around here. It's just kind of typical area around a train station can be a little bit rough. Lots of new builds going up now around here. So like historically, this area has always been a bit dumpy. It's kind of smartening up, more office blocks, luxury flats, of course, new entrances to the tube. So yeah, it's not all too bad. It's not too bad. What you want to do is you want to walk out from Waterloo, kind of follow the busy road left out the exit, and then you'll cut across. I'll flip the camera around in a second, you'll see, because you actually come up very close to some of the main tourist sites, which is where I'd probably recommend starting. And first sight, you can see it. The London Eye. Pretty impressive. Well, kind of impressive. Yeah, for any of you that don't know the context of the London Eye, basically it was built as a kind of temporary structure at the turn of the millennium. I think that's also why it's called the Millennium Wheel. I think kind of it was a bit of a success, so they kept it. Honestly, I think probably a bit underwhelming. It is essentially just a big Ferris wheel. It's a kind of classic tourist activity. I've done it about once, and I've lived here for like 26 years. But you do get a good view of London. So yeah, that's the sort of thing. It's definitely worth a look, and it's cool to see it in person. Kind of not as predicted, the opposite of as predicted. It is very busy here. But I mean, like, what would you expect? You're kind of in the centre of London, seeing all the sights. Yeah. So I guess like the plan of this video is basically to just show you around, give you a bit of a quick tour, so that if you're ever in London, you can basically copy this route, see all the main sites. Of course, there's much more to see than just this route, but I think it's a great way to kind of see the main things. Yeah, so we're starting up here, kind of flip round, you'll see a familiar building in a sec. So, the London Eye here. Pretty cool. And flipping over to the main event, Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament. And that's basically where the UK government sit and where all the decision making happens. It's a bit of a game of trying to dodge all the people here. Very touristy. Kind of what I imagine Times Square to be like in New York. Unbearable if you live here, but equally the sort of thing that you have to come and see at least once. Loads of street performers around here. That's kind of like the main thing. So you'll come up. Yeah, I don't know if this is much of a thing in other cities, but I think it is in all big cities. But you get all these like street performers. It's quite funny. So what's going on over here? Not really sure, to be honest. Bit of dancing, I think, of some sort. So this right here is like the first site. It's called the South Bank Centre. Pretty ugly modernist building, but I think it's actually like protected, so they can't knock it down or anything like that at all. It's kind of this whole complex here. So it's this bit here, and then up over here. It's kind of famous for plays, basically, and like an event space. About 10 or 15 years or so ago, there was quite a famous play called War Horse, from the Michael Pogo book that kind of started here. So yeah, kind of brutalist modern building that's very classic in London, that you get these, mix of old buildings on this side, although actually none of those are old, but with very sort of modern buildings on this side. Although I say that, it's kind of like 60s postmodernism, brutalist architecture. Kind of divides opinion, but I think on the whole people quite like it, especially now it's been here for so long. Quite fun thing to do in London is this over here. They have these kind of Uber riverboats, and you can get them all the way up and down the Thames. You just tap in with your Oyster card or your contactless, and it's a great way to just go up and down the river pretty cheap. Kind of like the Vaporettos, a big version of the Vaporettos in Venice. Yeah, so now this bit down here is kind of famous. It's like the South Bank skate park. Not anything that I do myself, given I'm not a skateboarder. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but yeah, it's quite a famous place for people to come and skateboard and BMX and stuff like that. A few years ago, they were actually going to knock it down and redevelop it, and I guess turn it into sort of shops and restaurants like this over here. But there was kind of lots of petitions, and then people agreed to keep it as is, which is quite fun, I think. It keeps the character of the place. What's so nice on a sunny day like this in London is just like everyone's out drinking, having fun with friends and family. Like all the bars are kind of heaving with people just having pints and stuff, which is it's got a good vibe to it. Oh look, and there's some sort of pop-up book, poster book. Yeah, and then look over here. They're selling all kind of vintage used books. So the trees are all out in full bloom as well. It's just such a vibe. It's such a nice place to come walk along. It's, it's super accessible and stuff. I think earlier I'd actually got that wrong. The National Theatre that I'd mentioned with the Warhorse production is actually just over here. You can't quite see. Let me flip the camera around. Yeah, so this is it here. This is the brutalist building I was meant to be talking about. This was built in the 50s or 60s, I think, for like the National Festival. I think if I'm right, it was kind of a like post-war thing to try and boom London and kind of get the vibes going, I guess, essentially. Yeah, divides opinion. Some people hate it. I quite like it. And a kind of fun fact, if I can get to the nerdy in architecture with you, is the wood, well, it's not wood, but the concrete that they used, they poured it on top of wood, so that if you look, it kind of has the graining effect of wood. So in a way, it kind of looks like wooden slabs, if you use your imagination. Yeah, trees are all out. You can't get better than this when the weather's like this in London. Look, how stereotypical is this? Everyone watching the Wimbledon final on the big screen. Now, I'm not quite sure what's in this building now. This used to be, ITV used to have offices here, so where they would film This Morning, which is like a kind of famous UK breakfast show. But now I think it's sitting empty. Looks like it's been kind of renovated on the inside. Probably office blocks. It's kind of what everything becomes. And what's great about South Bank is like, there's like no shortage of food burgers. So, bars, drinks, smash burgers, anything really. And you come and sit and have the nice view of the city, nice view of London. So, coming up here, and this is what I love about the South Bank, you start getting these amazing views. So the camera's not quite picking it up, but it's much closer in real life. But there's the famous dome of St. Paul's Cathedral, once the tallest peak in London, now dwarfed by the skyscrapers in the city. But it's just great. Like, you get to see all these main sites whilst along the river. And coming up now, it's just such a cool view. Peeking through the trees. You can see the city, the kind of financial heart of the UK and London. which is actually different from the rest of London. So when people refer to the city, they are specifically referring to that bit there, the square mile of the City of London, as opposed to kind of Greater London, which is what I'm technically standing in right now, although it feels pretty central. And look, right next to it, when the tide's out, a little beach on the Thames. Someone making a sculpture of some sort. On high tide, this all gets washed away, but it's a pretty nice vibe. And a bit of a fun fact, so all the buildings that go up in the city, there's a special rule that they can kind of be as tall as they need to be, but they have to protect the view of St. Paul's Cathedral. So that will never be blocked by any building. Fun fact. So from this side, a bit further up, you can kind of see how the view is protected. You see there's this kind of like gap all around it. So you won't get any tall buildings over there, which is quite nice. And that's what's the fun thing about London, is you have this real mix of architecture. You kind of have the really old stuff like St. Paul's Cathedral mixed in with the modern city. So, you know, it doesn't have that same feel that other kind of European cities have, where you feel like it's kind of stuck in time in a really quaint way, but almost like a living museum. It's very much a city that people are still living in and using like they were back in the day. Kind of a common sight in London, there's just sort of cranes and construction everywhere. Okay, so we're just walking under Blackfriars Bridge, really coming in to like opposite the city now, and we're coming up to one of my favourite buildings here, the Tate Modern. I think it's one of the most viewed galleries in the world. It's quite impressive on the inside. I won't go in today, we can do that on another day. It's free, like all the museums in London. You don't have to pay normally for entrance. They might have special exhibitions on, etc., that you pay for, but in general, they're all free, which is nice. It means they're accessible for everyone. And I think then it kind of means the museums feel a bit less pretentious and stuffy, that you can sometimes get in sort of foreign museums. Yeah, it's quite cool. It used to be an old power station, kind of similar to the one in Battersea. And I don't know when they developed it, but kind of sometime at the turn of the century. It's kind of like a classic Art Deco building, equally symmetrical. Yeah. And this is what I love about walking in this route in London. It's kind of all been designed for pedestrians. And in summer, it just comes into its own because all the trees are in full bloom. Pretty cool view of St. Paul's Cathedral over there. So just opposite St. Paul's Cathedral, you have this, the Millennium Bridge, also known as the Wobbly Bridge. And some of you, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you might recognise it. This is the one that all the Death Eaters come flying down the river and it twists and spizzles. Yeah, when it first opened though, there was something wrong with the bridge and it wobbled. So there's all these famous videos of people just sort of standing and swinging. And I think a few days after it opened, they had to shut it and redo it again. So yeah, but it's great because it leads you right on to St. Paul's Cathedral, but then also on the other side, the Tate Modern, which is pretty impressive. You can see the old chimney there, the turbine hall on the inside, which is kind of the main exhibition centre, and loads of street performers and stuff around it. There's just so much going on. Oh look, there's one of the Uber boats going down now. And so if we continue on past the Tate Modern now, we come to this cute little hidden gem down here, which I love as a bit of a fun fact. Yeah. This tiny little row of Georgian Queen Anne style properties. And this one here, I'm not sure what it's used for now, was where Sir Christopher Wren lived. And Sir Christopher Wren was the man, the architect, who designed St. Paul's Cathedral, which was designed basically in the aftermath of the fire of London, when the whole of the old city, all of this, burnt down because it was all kind of wooden medieval structures. he was kind of put in charge of designing the main buildings. I think it might be someone's house. Someone's just gone in. How cute is that? And there you can see the little plaque on the wall saying that's where he lived. Anyway, continuing round, we have Shakespeare's Globe. Now this is pretty cool. This is the theatre based on the site where Shakespeare's original theatre would have been. And it's kind of built in exactly the same style. It's kind of a traditional Shakespearean theatre, so there's like no seating, I don't think any speakers, and they typically only have on Shakespearean plays. I love it. Like, you have all the timber beams, classic Tudor style, with the thatched roof. And yeah, this is what it is on the inside. So kind of, you're standing only there with the actors in a classic way, how sort of Shakespearean plays worked. It's a pretty cool thing to do. Coming up to the end, coming up into Borough Market now, where it's kind of like, where I would say is a natural place to come and finish this tour. And you can see again that mix of the old and new here. Great pub here, the Anchor side. And then look, the Shard, the tallest building in the UK and I think Western Europe. Designed by Renzo Piano, designed to look like a shard of glass, which I think is pretty effective at doing. Yeah, and all of this just gets redeveloped constantly, these railway arches. But it's a great place to come for a drink and some food and just enjoy London in the sun. I love these old, classic old pubs. Look on the inside. Cozy in winter as well. So yeah, it's kind of hard to keep up with all the change and stuff that goes on in this area of London because it's just constantly being redeveloped for the best, I think. So look, down here now, in the old railway arches, kind of like bougie shops popping up. And there's an Aesop and stuff down there, you know, the classic stuff that you see in a sort of gentrified city. And this here, that's the old Clink Prison Museum. Well, it didn't used to be a museum, obviously. The old Clink Prison. Yeah, look. Yeah, like a medieval London prison. And you really get a sense of like this area being the old workers area. You get all the old kind of delivery stations attached to the buildings that still exist from back in the day. Narrow streets. You can get a sense of what it was like in the medieval time. Yeah, and again, another example coming up of this old and new and old. You get the sort of remnants here of a really medieval church. Winchester Palace. They're standing in the way, so I won't bother. But it's sort of tucked away. It's what London does best. This mix of old and new. And then, yeah, we're kind of almost finishing now. Coming up to Borough Market, which is famous for just being like an old food market, but now it's like a real foodie hotspot of London. And since the pandemic, it's kind of just got heaving, which some criticise, but equally, I think it's good for the city and it's a great tourist site. The Cutty Sark here. Oh no, it's not, sorry, it's the Golden Hind. I think an old medieval boat. I've actually never been there. I think it's a bit of a tourist trap. Quite cool to see. With a great view of the City of London in the background. You can see the gherkin, the walkie-talkie. I think that's the cheese grater. I don't know, they all have these silly names. So yeah, I'm getting ready to brace myself a little bit because Borough Market is heaving normally, especially on the weekends. But there's a reason why. The food scene is great, and kind of not even in the market, outside of the market, like some of the best restaurants in London, the kind of Borough Bermondsey area. If you're looking for those kind of small plates, fine dining experience, it's definitely the place to be. You can get your classic fish and chips on this side. Risotto over here, wild mushroom, truffle risotto. I love it. You have the railway going over the top. It's just so busy, so buzzy. We'll go right. It's a kind of classic cast iron Victorian structure. And despite being busy, it retains its charm. Actually, there's a little spot that I should show you. So a bit of trivia. This is where Bridget Jones lives. And she lives in a tiny little flat. Not quite here, but just the street beyond is where she is kind of based. And it's kind of ironic when you come here because it's like, now it's the heart of London, but I think back in the 90s it was known as being a bit of a scruffy food market. She was kind of considered not to be doing too well with herself because she was living on her own in a flat in Borough Market area, which I think now most people would kind of strive for. Well, people who don't mind the busyness. I just love all the food and shopping options here. Yeah, and this is the type of thing I'm talking about. So this restaurant here, Camille, is like a very, very good French bistro. Yeah, all the food here kind of known for being very good. Applebee's, that's new, I haven't seen that before. The Wheat Sheaf, that's a great pub, very busy after work. Kind of with the development of the Shard and stuff, this whole area has kind of become way more corporate as well. So it's got a real buzz to it now in the week because people actually come and get their work lunches, etc. So many food options. But my favourite place to come to is this little steak restaurant here. You can get a really cheap steak sandwich of good quality and some empanadas. So I'm going to get that down and settle down somewhere and have some food. It's getting a bit popular. More people know the spot, but it's still pretty hidden. It's a bit of a hidden gem. So my plan was to find somewhere here to eat, but it's just too busy and I think I want to go home. So I've got my steak sandwich. That's fucking delicious. Yeah, a bit of a long wait, but on the whole, not too bad. £10 for this. But yeah, this feels like a pretty good place to end the video. Hopefully that's given you a bit of a walking tour through London. Yeah, I'd recommend it. I mean, there's plenty more to see as well. But I feel like you hit the main sites. You see Big Ben, you see the London Eye, you see South Bank Centre, the Globe, a bit of the city. You get a great view of St Paul's Cathedral. What else? Oh, yeah, and then Borough Market, which you have to go to. Let me know if there's anywhere else that you want me to take you around in London. Thinking of doing a few more of these types of videos. A bit of background about me. I kind of love travel, journalism and stuff. And so I'm kind of using this as a bit of a creative outlet. I'll see where it ends up. I've got my normal job on the side, of course. One day, maybe, I could become a proper travel blogger. So yeah, let me know what you want to see.